The best place to begin with the Vesica Institute online spiritual science courses is with the online training entitled Essential Teachings and Practices of Spiritual Science. Now, I created this course so that it's suitable whether a person has extensive background already in the field or no background whatsoever. We start from the very beginnings of important concepts and practices and then build to higher and higher levels. Now, one of the most important things that we constructed this course for was to overcome the challenge that we have in modern metaphysical teachings, where we tend to have only fragments of the knowledge and practices from ancient traditions, and they don't always fit together to make a coherent whole. So this course has been constructed to give you the essential context for how everything fits together in a way that is simply almost impossible to find today. Another way that this training differs from many other sources of information today is that we really focus on the modern independent path of initiation. In ancient times, we would tend to join one specific group for our entire life, and we would learn their system and only their system. We would have a particular guru to which we would need to turn over our power and our allegiance. And again, we would follow that one pathway for the rest of our lifetime. The reality today is that the majority of people are not following this path anymore. In modern times, the guru path is one that has many, many pitfalls. I'm not necessarily speaking against it. It can happen in a way with integrity that can be beneficial, but there are so many pitfalls with it today, and it is simply not a natural fit for most people in the modern world, that we need more clarification of the modern independent path of spiritual initiation. This is where people are free to acquire information from any tradition around the world, or what we sometimes refer to as the Hermetic method or the Hermetic tradition, where we're open to sources of information from everywhere. That's what the majority of us are doing today, and that's what this particular training is based on, so that you understand how the independent path of spiritual initiation really works, but we overcome the main problem or modern challenge with the independent path, which is having sufficient contextual knowledge to be able to choose the particular exercises, practices that we will do, because we have very limited time and energy in our short lifetimes to create permanent spiritual change within us. And so in this course, I've really focused on giving you the information and the practices you need to make the independent spiritual path as effective as possible. One aspect of this is that when we deal with developing the human mind power, which is a superpower that any person can develop to a higher level, it tends to be today that traditions will simply show you a method in which you work on receptive meditation, which is holding a clear mind state that allows you to directly perceive non-physical realities without influencing them. Or on the other hand, modern traditions may teach methods of active meditation, in which you learn how to craft your thought forms into things that will create effects in your life and in the world around you. But very rarely will you see how these two polar opposite forms of mind power can be cultivated and developed together. So that's one thing that we address very directly with the practices needed to develop both. Another example of this is that today it's not clear to most spiritual seekers what the ramifications are for the types of spiritual practices that they undertake. Spiritual practices will begin to create structures in your subtle bodies. And so different practices were created by different traditions in the past to create different structures in our energy body. We need to be aware of what these structures are and the effect that they will have. So I teach a particular practice that allows you to become aware of the structures that are being created by any type of practice that you do, or even the effects of how you're using your mind, your feelings, your energy on a daily basis. Now, this is also connected to how we choose to open up our energy field to be able to attain higher states of consciousness and develop the energy body further. So, for example, there's the bottom-up method that we find in ancient traditions, particularly in the East, where we activate the base of the spine energy, and then we go up the energy centers, up to the crown, and for more advanced initiation, above the head. Then there's the top-down method, which got popularized with the early Christian forms of initiation, where we activate the crown center first and then go downward. But even people that understand the difference between these two forms of initiation often are not aware that there is a third form, which is the center-out method, in which we can begin to develop the center of the human energy system and then develop a organizing center for the entire body of energy that way, so that as we activate all of the latent energy centers and siddhas, powers in the human energy field, there's an organization to it that means it can be properly integrated and kept on a permanent basis with the person as they continue to develop further, and even as we pass through the gate of death. After completing this course, you could expect to have activated this organizing center of the entire body of energy. This is something that, again, is not even well understood in most esoteric circles today, much less taught. We will also teach you how to be able to use both receptive and active forms of meditation to develop your mind power to much higher levels than is possible by doing simply one or the other. We'll also give you the information you need to choose if you're going to use the from below upwards or from above downwards or the center out form of activation of your energy field. We're also going to give you sufficient contextual information to be able to understand the significance and ramifications of what particular types of practices you choose to do in your lifetime, including the practice to be able to see and to experience internally the effects of any practice you do. There's also the aspect that I go into detail in being able to discern between different types of spiritual groups and being able to perceive what will occur when we have what's known as initiation trials on the path, so that we do not fail this trial and so that we get through the trials with less suffering and less confusion that is very common today on the spiritual path. We've done our best to give you the tools you need in this course, not only for advanced spiritual discernment, which is one of the things most needed today and is most lacking, but also to start the actual personal initiation process that is going to take you to the spiritual goal that we're all seeking.